David, great to have some time to chat with you this morning. It's exciting with what we're working on and makes me think about how Action Coach Lake Norman got to where it is. Coming up on 13 years, is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to believe it's been that long already. Time flies.
It sure does. So, Action Coach Lake Norman, physical space, key man suite there on
Yeah.
150,
Yep.
but
Right off
not been
exit
there the
36. Yep.
okay. Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about that background. I don't know that we've really talked through that, but high levels, sort of, how you got where you are and where we're headed.
Man, it's a long journey to get to where I am, but ultimately it came by way of the downturn in the housing market, and found myself broke and out of work, and jumped in another gig for a little bit doing some sales, and blindsided by a layoff with that. And just a complete reset with a wife and three sons at home, and not really knowing what the next chapter was. Unfortunately, Steve up in Greensboro, that is in charge of the area for Action Coach, found me on Indeed and saw my background and thought, man, that might be a perfect fit. So he reached out, and we got the fact of the matter is I had no idea what business coaching was, but after we talked about it and he explained it, I was like, man, that's exactly what I've been doing anyway. Because I don't at the time I had owned a couple of businesses already in the trades, and working with some other trades guys, just sitting on the back of the truck and talking business, talking shop, and one thing led to another, and by God's grace, it provided the means for me to buy into the franchise and go to training. And dang, 12 and a half years later, here we are. It's amazing. It's
It
amazing.
really is.
It's been a great ride. I started out as, you're here as a result of some really good successes of some other business owners and whatnot in the area. And it started out as a solopreneur, and being a coach, and over the years, what I realized, and I may be getting ahead of the game here and sharing this, but it's like, my goodness, there's so many small businesses, and this area is booming, and yet they don't realize, in many cases, business owners, myself included, when I was had my construction company and plumbing company, I didn't realize the resources that were available, or even that I needed them. I was a bit too prideful and
Mm.
thinking I could handle it on my own, and it cost me a significant amount. But a few years ago, I upped my game in the franchise world in Action Coach, and took on another level, which allows me to actually build a firm, not just my own practice as a solopreneur, solo coach, but to build this out. And that was really inspired by the growth in the area, and what results that firsthand that we're actually seeing with these business owners
Mhm.
that are getting some coaching and some structure and accountability and all that kind of stuff. And man, they're just making some amazing things happen. And what a shame if I don't have enough time in my calendar to coach more business owners. So, grateful for you coming on board. Was at the end of last year, and
Yeah, me
um,
too.
yeah, I mean, it's a great fit with your own entrepreneurial
Yeah,
background and
yeah.
everything. So, man, the sky's the limit. Having a big impact already, and
Mhm.
you got great days ahead of you, and having more and more impact for yourself. And I think for Lake Action Coach Lake Norman, man, there's so much impact we can have to help business owners save their marriages, save their businesses. And even, it's not just about the defensive posture, but it's more about getting freedom and having some financial freedom and time freedom to enjoy
Mhm.
life. So,
So impact, I heard a couple of times there. If I think about what we're after or what we're really in it for, uh, Action Coach motto, world abundance through business re-education. And so that abundance mindset, there's a part of that I believe, and I think we're aligned in that it's also that desire for that abundance for others. And in seeing them experience abundance and then do well with it, we find our own fulfillment, right? And is
that's
that
right.
what impact means, David? Or what does that mean? What does impact look like to you? You mentioned save marriages, save businesses. That may be the answer itself, but what is a little more on impact?
Well, I personally saw my father work 6, 7 days a week for his entire life, basically, and then sold his business for a fair number, nothing what he deserved for a lifetime of work. And it's only because it was him. He did not, as much as I love him, he did not take advantage of some other resources. He was a lifelong learner, but didn't really step outside and think about the next level. So that was firsthand, even, my own story and losing everything back in that 07, 08 time period. And it doesn't have to be that way. The process of building a business, you and I both know, you read the books, you can listen to the podcast, you can talk to people and Google it. AI will tell you what you need to do to grow a business. And that's great from a what to do aspect. But the rubber meets the road with the application of it. You're different than I am. Every business owner is a little bit different. And that's what a coach really brings. And that's the impact that we get to have, is taking all this content and working with the individual for the application, for the context, putting it into place in a way that's right for the owner, for the timing in the market, what's right for the business. And that's where coaching and that impact comes into play. It's not one size fits all. It's working it for the individual and their temperaments and their risk tolerance, and
yes,
and there's so many different factors that come into play. But that's what I see is so many businesses, like they end up in a certain way just because they didn't know enough, or they didn't have the encouragement to do things differently that would have a tremendous impact on the outcome.
Would definitely agree with it. Yeah. Well, you and I got to know each other by way of me looking as a business owner for more and knowing that there was a better way. The product of our work in that automotive space was good, but at the top, and having been accustomed to more strategy and conversation and brainstorming and technique, there was something missing. And so by way of us being in a networking group together through business networking and BNI, and partnering up and participating in the Profit Club at the time, I can speak from personal experience now also on the other side as facilitating that those offerings or that support to our clients. But as a participant, I can say from personal experience that had a positive impact on not just being able to be more clear on and more confident in what the numbers of the business were telling me, because obviously Profit Club is focused on our 5-way formula to grow profit, right? So that's the focus, but it also was very focused on me as the owner operator, and focus on mindset that aligned that do with purpose, which is kind of where the impact comes together. So super excited, with what we have ahead, more to come in some of our additional posts here, but most grateful to be part of this journey that we're on, that's got deep background and a bright future. So
it's gonna be exciting. We'll take advantage of another podcast here to capture your story and how you ended up here. But the really fun thing for me was to have you be a part of that program when you were the owner of a few shops, and to see that impact, and even to the point of growing it and exiting in a very favorable manner.
That's right. And 61%, if I don't mind saying so.
Fantastic. And then even to come back around and recognize, hey, this is really something here, and for you to want to be a part of ActionCOACH Lake Norman's phenomenal. So I'm excited to have you part of it. We'll look forward to the next one when we get to hear your story. How's that?
I believe in the power of proximity, so I've picked a strong partner with you, and I'm happy for where you're at, and looking forward to where we're headed, and we'll pick that on the next series here. So talk with you soon. Let's get some work done, David.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy.